Toga, she's gonna be alright. She's fine. I thought my volume was jacked up, but I forgot there's like 20 of them talking at the same time. It's
The
serious.
fact he's got measuring tape in his wrist.
It's kind of incredible.
Talk about utility.
Turn this ish up a little bit. Oh, I just muted it. Whoops. There we go. Sorry. Oh, what?
Damn, yeah, and that's a really smart play.
Why'd he do that?
They're gonna. She's losing blood. He's twice, bro.
Ah, boy. Dude, holy crap. Holy hell. This guy. That's a dope looking mask. Oh, he just flung that thing on his head, bro. Yo, dude, this guy is hype, man.
I have a trumpet mask.
This guy can take over the world if he really. I'm surprised that guy's not the leader. I can't, bro. Yo, Deadass totally forgot that lizard guy's quirk.
Oh man.
Oh, that's
it's
okay.
Basically like lizard. He's a lizard.
Okay. He's the embodiment of Stain. Damn, bro, give him a shot.
That's why all these villains lose, bro. They're like, I'm pretty sure you're weak, and then said weak dude gets his Zenkai boost and whoops his ass.
Yeah, come on now. He's not dead yet, and he's fighting like 1,000 people at the same time. Oh boy.
That's what I'm saying.
Ooh.
Damn.
What? Yeah, you already said that. Pick up that damn sword.
Cool.
Oh shit. Oh damn, bro, he's spitting facts right now.
Ooh.
Mr.
Hit him with
Politician.
those words, bro.
Oh, I kind of like this guy. Because I literally this whole time had no clue what his quirk was. Besides, I'm like, well, he's like a lizard. But I'm like, does he do anything else besides be a lizard? But like, oh my lord.
Facts. Understatement of the year.
Holy shit. Whoa. Did he just rip his shoe off?
Whoa. Whoa.
Shigaraki with his acrobatic moves. He's just floating through the air, bro. Oh shit. Okay, realistically, should be dead, right, Emma? Stress? He stores up his stress and... Okay, so he's like... literally like Hulk? In a sense?
Like, yeah, if you just replace anger with stress.
Yeah. Oh man, he's hitting him with that shit right now. Oh boy. Are you a hollow man? I love how eerie they make those flashbacks. No, don't do it! He did it, but... Oh, she didn't touch his hand. Stop doing this to me. I already know what happens. Holy shit. Ow! Oh! Oh shit.
Hey,
Oh shit.
don't count them out yet.
Okay, so I guess it does act as like a somewhat pseudo armor. Oh, okay, he just got touchy with a pinky or anything. Dude, he got yeeted across there, bro. Oh shit, he's pulling it twice. Oh shit. Oh. Yeah, for real though. Like, what? How'd you learn all that?
I was like, are we talking about the fact that he just got his shoes back on?
Yeah, he's been training a lot. Okay, he's the Flash. What the fuck? Yo! What?
The stress machine.
Yo, that's sick. His quirk is... What the fuck? He's got freaking... What? Oh, what? Bro, he can shoot blasts out of his hand, too? He's got a pretty
They're burden
nasty...
blast.
What?
They're burden blast.
Be stressed.
Literally.
He just hit his head on the fridge.
Oh, he's remembering.
What do you remember? His phone's ringing? Shit.
Oh my god.
Are you kidding me? Oh shit, here comes the giant. They're gonna have to brawl.
Here he is. It's time to put this stress shit to the test.
Yo! No, dude. Oh, this is
Dude.
freaking sick. Holy shit, this is insane. I love how he answered that phone like, boop. Dude, this guy is just too big for anyone's good. That's definitely going to stress him out a bit more. Is he going to have to fight both of them at the same time?
And now his shoes are growing again.
Yeah, how did he live?
Well,
Because he's got a little bit of plot armor, but still, how did he do that? Oh, what?
yeah.
Oh, shit. Dude, yo, Shigaraki with these brass balls, bro, walking up to him like that. Yeah, apparently. Yeah, well. Nah, that's dumb. I hope you're lying. I'm rooting for Redestro if that's the case. You're lying. There's got to be a reason. Oh. What's the deal with that?
Another couple of great parents.
Yeah, here we go. The trend. Damn.
It's like, the more I see this stereotype, dude, the more, I mean, not stereotype, but like, the more it just, I don't know.
Damn, I'm itchy. Oh, damn. What word? Bro, I love those kind of dogs. It's like talking about a Cowboy Bebop. Oh! Oh, shit. Oh, no. Bro, don't touch the dog. Oh, man. Pops don't look happy. Oh, you rat!
Wow. Ugh.
Oh, that's his mother?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he sees it pretty differently then, I guess.
Yeah, but it's like, bro, go get some therapy. I'm like, I don't need you passing on this shit to other kids. Like, you got hangups about your parents. Go deal with it on your own.
Oh
Shit.
boy.
This is the problem. The underlying problem here.
Yeah.
That all these other humans have issues they never get over, and instead of getting help or getting over them, they just have kids and pass those issues on to them.
Yeah, right? They're like, I know how to do this. I'll just lump it all on my child. Oh. Damn. Oh boy. This guy is like if Boruto went the wrong way.
Is that what he said? It's
uh,
interesting. Interesting choice of words.
don't disintegrate the dog, bro. Oh no. Oh no. Oh my god, dude. No. Oh my god. Oh, the doggo.
Fuck, dude, with the sister now. Poor kid is he's breaking, dude.
No. Use your feet or something. Oh my god.
Yeah, but he doesn't know.
I know, I know.
Oh, he doesn't know.
Oh man. Oh man, that's so messed up though. Oh. Okay, so he could touch something and then by proxy. Oh, that was a crazy shot. Even since a child, I guess it just manifested a little more.
Well, it's because the well, quirks respond to a person's emotional state.
Yeah.
So this was the awakening of said quirk, and yeah, it was heightened by all these feelings that he was feeling, and that ability was sort of
Wow.
suppressed along with these memories, like in him for such a long time.
Oh my god. Oh. Oh, what a shot, bro. Wow. Oh man, that's crazy. Whew, sheesh.
Oh, God, but fuck, dude. Just fuck me, man.
Wow, that was some wild shit, dude. That was some wild shit. Okay. Okay. Man, again, I mean, I just got to say this. I know, you know, if y'all watched last episode, I might sound like a broken record a bit, but like parenting 101. Like, I don't have children. You know, I'm 26. I'm not saying I'm an expert. But all I'm saying is, bro, like, don't, like, you got to be ready for parenting. And, like, it's not as simple as just, like, I have the kid and then just, like, bark rules at him. Like, there's a lot more to it. And, like, you got to be prepared for that. You know, I'm assuming a lot of our age demographic is on the younger side. So maybe some of this doesn't apply to you yet. But for anyone out there that is maybe, you know, has children or, you know, is whatever, whew, I'm just saying, man, like, you know, I know this is a fictional series, but the rules still apply, man. Like, you could mess some kids up, you know what I mean? And granted, like, you know, some kids are different than others, and, you know, personality plays a role. But like, damn, dude, you can't just like, and so many people are guilty of this. Like, just, it's so hard because it's like sometimes you're like the person you're, I don't want to say fighting, but the person you're dealing with is like not even just that person. It's like a generational thing. It's like, you know, the sins of their father or mother, and it's like on them and projected to you. And it's like, it's a whole thing, man.
There's so many different, there's so many different things that you have to fight back against as a kid. It's not just, and you know, and there are things that you, like you're saying, like that you shouldn't have to. There are, you know, transgressions and flaws and traumas baked into your parents by their parents and their life experiences. But then you think about the way society works, right? How does society teach them to handle those problems? To bury them deep down, to go get work, to be useful to society, to make yourself look good and neat and prim and proper, even if mentally you're falling apart, and that you're now supposed to raise a family under those circumstances. So then what do? You end up becoming so scared of your kid not being able to fit in that you try to beat into them all of the things that you want them to be, instead of realizing that, like, when you have a child, you're not making like a different version of yourself. Every person is an individual human. A child is their own person, even from when they're born. You don't get to dictate and decide who they are, what kind of person they are, what they want to do with their life, because it's their life. You have to, being a parent it's not this like, let me make the best kids I can make. You are nothing but a support role. You're supposed to just be there for these kids as they grow up, as they experience life, so that when they fall, when they have troubles, when they don't understand things, you're the thing that they can fall back on when nothing else works. If you're not there for those moments, if you're not that thing that can fall back on, they break. They fall apart because they have nothing else. I mean, Shigaragi's backstory is one of the saddest to me because it's so real. You know what I mean? Like, think about, you compare someone like him to Deku. Deku has like an amazing mother. Deku has like one of the best moms in the entire show. And it's like, what a difference it makes when you have parents that are like there and understanding and supportive. And even if you think about it, from the beginning, Deku's mom wasn't like crazy about Deku becoming a hero because, you know, she knew that would directly put him in danger. But think about, that's the point, right? Despite that, despite what she might have wanted for Deku, despite what she felt was best for Deku, she ultimately went with what Deku wanted, and she supports Deku in that however she can. And that's what created this, you know, this amazing, you know, man that we see now, you know, who Deku is now, who he's becoming. Shigaraki is the exact opposite of that. He's the kid who arguably wanted the same kind of desire that Deku did, but was not only told he couldn't, was actively shunned and beaten and traumatized over it. And so, like, you know, when he's describing that moment where he's like, you know, he watches, you know, because his emotions get riled up and he accidentally kills his dog, and then like things just start like spiraling at a mile a minute, and his sister comes in and she panics over it, and he's like just afraid of what's going on. He's trying to stop her, but like because his quirk responds to touch, it's like, you know what I mean, the second he interacts with anybody, that's it. and then like it overloads, and his mom in her last moments, like that shot was crazy. She's like
That was
still
wild,
trying
yeah.
to support him, and like, but when he sees his father, what does his father do? Having his house crumbling before him, the rest of his family has been obliterated. He beats the kid. He still is attacking this kid, and it's like
Yeah.
all Shigaraki's life, he hasn't known anything else about this man other than, I think this man hates me. And even if the father doesn't, that doesn't matter, because that's all Shigaraki thinks. That's all he knows. As far as he's concerned, he does hate him. So in that moment, when he describes it like, I had nothing but the purest intent to kill for the first time in my life, it's like, I get it. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not condoning it, obviously, and that's not the way to go about solving that problem in a healthy way. But like, you like, fuck, dude, you can't. That's what you do to a child when you neglect them, when you tell them that they're not allowed to be who they want to be, or that you know what's better, and that they're like that. That's what you do. The only difference between making a monster like that in a show in the real world is superpowers don't exist in the real world. If they did, we'd have more cases like Shigaraki. I promise you, because
Yeah.
people. That trauma is real. People get hurt like that. The difference is they can't destroy things with the touch of their fingertips. So, but it's like that. His backstory just it messes me up the most because it's so real. He just honestly
Yeah.
wanted to be a good thing, and everybody and everything told. Again, it's interesting that he sort of ends up becoming the leader of the League of Villains because his story echoes it the most. Everything in his life, even though his mom and his grandparents, were weren't the ones actively beating him, it's like, he has that moment where he's like, why didn't you guys help me? Why is it that you would always just say, don't cry, instead of actually saying, like, giving me that validation, helping me do something? And it's like, all his entire life, he's just been told he's not allowed to be who he wants to be. He's not allowed to fit in. So that's why again, I don't think it's not the most complex, but I think his drive of like, honestly, I want to watch the world burn is like comes from such a real place. So like that the trauma that brewed that desire, he doesn't care about the future. He doesn't care about society. He doesn't care about all these people that have done nothing but tell him his whole life that he is a mistake, that he's not right. So in his mind, he's like, well, maybe society is a mistake. And obviously, we have All for One's influence and manipulation sort of like really boiling that up and like amping up those feelings. But his desire to do away with all of this shit it comes from such a raw level of just rage and discontent with the world.
Yeah. So two things. I wanna respond to that because it was pretty heavy moments. But also before that, I want to backtrack a little because I think there is something relevant to talk about in terms of All Might's mentor, whose name evades me at the moment. I don't know if it was mentioned. I can't remember. The previous All for One user, or One for All rather, her being the mother of the father who winds up being pretty bad.
Yes.
And I do think this is something that shouldn't be glossed over because now the father, again, definitely did not internalize that well, and he did not handle it right at all. He projected those issues and problems onto his child, and instead of trying to remedy it and make it so his kids could have a better life, instead he repeated the cycle. And while his mother was not actively, like beating him or anything like that, like physical violence, and she did show love for him, there is something to be said, and again, this is harder to relate to because this is in a world of superheroes, so it's like not as common that it's like, oh, well, my dad has to go be a vigilante today, you know what I'm saying, so like he can't come here, so it's a little harder to relate to. So some people might be like, oh, well, that's her job, but there is something to be said about her not being there, which is maybe sounds harsh to say given her profession, but there is some truth to it for her child. And I think there is this interesting play that you have with, just because her intentions are good, she wants to help and save people, and she might be the only person who can save others. Again, this whole idea of like, if you're going to have a child, you have to understand every implication that comes with having a child. And that means that even for her, she did not handle that correctly, in my opinion. You have to understand, if you're now, again, I don't know when she received the All for One power. It might have been after she had the child, so that plays a role, to be fair. But even so, it is relevant because I didn't really see a father in the picture, so I'm assuming she was a single mother based off the flashback. Or even if she wasn't, she said, I'm going to have a child, but I'm going to go and never be here. You know what I'm saying? And at that point, it's like, I'm not dissuading for people from having kids because, you know, new life and children, you know, it's a beautiful thing. But at the same time, it's like, even if you have the best intentions, like, you gotta understand that it's like, there is a lot of responsibility that comes with having a family, having a child. And I don't think that she handled that the best. And it sounds messed up to say, because there might have been people that, you know, really could have used her help. But if that's the case, like, you know, like, that's your blood, you know what I mean? Like, that's your family, that's your child. Like, you have to be there for them. You know what I'm saying? In some way, shape, or form, you have to show them that love. And so it's a very messed up scenario that, like, again, everyone's decisions are their own. So I'm not blaming her for everything that goes down the line. Everybody has their own thing. But, you know, inadvertently, she didn't cause it per se, but she definitely played a role in, like, the tragedy that happened later on, because, again, the best intentions, she really jacked her son up from just not being there ever for him. And so now her son, you know, kind of like the whole Shigaraki thing, like, has this warped mentality of what it means to be a hero, and, you know, and now projects it, because he never knew how to handle that, because he never had a mentor or parental figure. He made his own way in business, and he said, okay, like, this is never going to happen again. Like, you're not going to be a hero, and handles it completely wrong. But, like, it is a very generational problem. And I do think that there is a little bit of blame to be put on her, which is messed up to say, but it's just, it's a very real thing. And it's it even adds to the sadness of, like, everything that goes down. I was talking to a buddy of mine the other week, and I don't even know how it came up, but the subject of parents came up, and he said something along the lines that really stuck with me, and I'm paraphrasing, but he says, you know, if I ever have kids, like, I think what I realize now is that too many people try and correct what their parents did, or be the opposite of whatever their parents did to hurt them, instead of just trying to be the best version of themselves that they can be for their children. And he's like, if I have kids, like, I want to try and make an effort to not just be the opposite of my father or, you know, whatever, but to just be the best version of myself for them. And that really stuck with me, because I never heard somebody refer to that in such a way before. And it really stuck, because there are so many times in my head where I'm like, you know, if I have kids, I'm not going to be that way that my father was, or I don't want to be this version of my father, or, like, you know, maybe my mother did something or whatever. And I never really thought of it like, where it's like, just be the best version of yourself. You know what I mean? And, like, cause you're never going to be perfect, but I think that was you know, that really stuck with me. And I think it's, you know, I've been thinking about that a lot as I see a lot of these villainous backstories, because the parental thing has been the ongoing theme on every one of them. And I know I'm rambling here, but I want to move on to the next thing. And obviously, if you have any thoughts on this, Isaiah, feel free to jump in. But secondly, I just want to get this off my chest, because, again, I gotta try and be objective here and just, you know, call it like I see it in the episode. Shigaraki's backstory is very sad. And it's very sad because it could have been prevented. But I don't know that, maybe I'm in the minority here, but I don't know if I cut Shigaraki as much slack as maybe some other people do. And I think the one redeeming quality is that he's so young that I give him a little more slack, because it's like, you're in your developmental years and everything we just explained. But one thing that I took issue with Shigaraki's whole philosophy, even as a child, is that he projects his hate onto everyone. And I think it's doing a disservice to his mother and his sister, and I guess his grandparents, who don't really say much, but he kind of makes it out as if, like, they're all against him because they didn't quote unquote save him. Which, it's like, you know, there's so much you can do, and, like, yeah, maybe they could have done more, but, like, we see his mother take a pretty active role throughout that in talking, you know, to the father in such a way where it's like, you're being overly assertive, you're being strict, like, you need to stop, and is trying to do her best to remedy that, because you got to remember, that's also her husband, right? And so it's like, I think, you know, it's like, it might be easy to, like, put the blame on the people that, quote, did nothing, but I don't think that they didn't do anything. You know what I mean? I do think that the sister was there to support the dream with it. She obviously rats him out, but she's a kid. You know, shit happens all the time. I think the mother is trying her best to juggle that, you know, between being a child and, you know, like, respecting her husband's, rules, but also being like, okay, like you're being too hard in this case, like you got to do this. But it seems from their family dynamic that there's really not a lot she can do, because it's pretty abundantly clear that the father in this scenario is clearly the head of the household. He wears the pants in this, and like his rule is what they follow. You know what I mean? And like some family dynamics are like that, where it's like maybe some families, like the mother has more of a say, like maybe Kachan's mom, and like, but there are others where it is not the case. And I would say more so than not, in certain cultures and whatever, it's usually the man, you know what I mean, that has the final say in terms of family. And whether you agree with that or not is besides the point. The point is that's the situation it was. So I do cut the mother some slack for trying her best to ameliorate the situation in the best way that she thought that she could. And the parents and the grandparents did seem to show love. They weren't fully aware of the situation on the level that the wife was. So like, I don't like the fact that Shigaraki puts the blame on everyone equally.
I think
that's my beef.
They were all aware, like they all knew what was going on, because he did it in broad daylight in front of all of them outside. Like it wasn't like he would take Shigaraki into the basement and beat him and then be like, oh yeah, we had a talk, everything's fine. Like in that flashback we saw he'd take him out of the backyard with a glass door, and everybody literally watched as he beat him or left him outside and said nobody like go out there and bring him in. And it's like, I think the problem is Shigaraki's mom and his grandparents, we're trying to ease the situation instead of actually helping, right? Because quite frankly, them comforting him after he gets beaten and telling him not to cry is not helpful. It's just not. Like with what the situation is, I get that like you want to say like, or that the family, that the father is the hierarchy, but that also doesn't change the fact that that's just not helpful still, right? Like if you have a problem in front of you, addressing and understanding it and then knowing how to solve it are two different things, right? So if you were in a situation and you were like, oh, I'm going to help Shigaraki by comforting him and telling him, try not to cry and just to grit your teeth, that's not helping the situation, because the situation is that this kid is being abused by his father. So the grandparents, I don't know, like some families are different, maybe lesser than, because they're not like the direct parents. So but like the mom, I don't really give a fuck about the like who wears the pants. She has 50% of care and say over this child. If this father is beating this child, to help the child, the mother like should be able to. Now I know like should and what does happen are two different things, but my point is that like that's where his anger comes from, because he understands that like his mom has the second authority position in this household, but like will actively stand by and let this happen, and so it feels disingenuous for her to be like, oh well, it's okay, don't cry, when all she does is stand there and watch and just kind of like wave her finger and be like, you should stop doing this, it's wrong, right? Because like telling somebody to stop doing something and like getting them to stop or making them stop are two different things, right?
So I guess that's where my hang up is, and where I think I disagree, respectfully with it, is that I think I guess my idea, right, is when you say, well, you should make him stop. Like, given the family dynamic that I saw and the person who she was, I do actually think that this, and this is where I guess we disagree, but I actually do think that she was trying in that scenario. Like, so for starters, and again, I'm not giving the father excuses here, because he definitely goes overboard and stuff. He's not physically beating Shigaraki consistently. The one time he hits him with his hand is the first and only time, besides the pipe, but that's when that's when they're fighting. That's a different story. But before that, when he slaps him, that is the one and only time the first time that he slaps him, and not excusing it whatsoever. But for number one, the father is definitely in his feels about it. He's like, shit, that was too far. I shouldn't have done that, which indicates that, to me, he wasn't consistently physically abusing him, because otherwise he wouldn't have that internal conflict the first time he slapped him. Again, not excusing him, but I think it's relevant. Sure. Now, I think the mother, too, though, when she sees that, because that is the first time he's gone that far, does come in and says, this is too far. I'm not going to be with you if you're going to treat our children like this. And I do think that is really the best that she can do in being like, this is what I'm going to put a stop to, you know, in terms of their punishment of like, you can't come in for dinner or whatever, you know, I'm not going to get into like my family life, but like, you know, we had punishments for certain things that we did. And, you know, whether the punishment was justified or not is a different story. I'm not going to get into my whole thing, but let's just put it this way. Like, I have experienced and know other people that have had, you know, punishments, you know, maybe on the level of like, okay, you know, you're not invited to dinner or something like that. And I'm not saying it's correct, but I guess what I'm saying is that, you know, the physical abuse was not consistent. And while any time is wrong, I do feel that that's worth mentioning, because I think when the mom does see that, she's like, okay, that's it. That's far enough. You know what I mean? And when it's the times prior, I do think there's a genuine where it's like, okay, like, these are the rules. This is what, you know, this is what's set up. Like, you know, you're going to be okay. Like, your dad doesn't hate you. And I think there is truth to that. I think the dad, again, going back generationally, doesn't hate his son, but he is so triggered and has this like PTSD about the idea of heroes because of his mother that it trickles down. It's a whole thing. But I guess, I don't know. I think, you know, and again,
I want to stop you there because the thing is, the anime doesn't show it, but in the manga, like, it is made, they do make a point to say that hitting him was not the first time. Like, Shigaraki's dad was repeatedly physically abusing this child.
Okay.
And I think so the scene where, you know, that we were talking about, where his mom comes in and, you know, to his room or whatever, and is like, oh, if you're not going to, or you know, if you're going to keep doing this or being this way, I'm not going to be with you anymore. To me, like, feels like giving him a false ultimatum. Again, that doesn't really help the child, because in my mind, if you wanted to get him to stop, because in my mind, that doesn't necessarily give him or force him into an option where he has to stop doing that or think of another way to solve this issue. Because if they split apart and they leave, he could just keep doing that stuff to this kid on the side, unless, like, obviously if they split up, unless Shigaraki goes with the mom. But I guess my point is, the father is, you know, again, the anime kind of like fast forwards through his backstory a little bit, but it's made abundantly clear that, like, his father created an abusive household. Like, that the fear that he instilled in Shigaraki that made him feel so isolated and, you know, and an outcast, to an extent, was put in the mom and the grandparents, less why they would all basically stand there and watch when he would either take him out into the backyard or wherever to do said abusing. And it's not so much like, you know, because, like, sure, you know, people, like, almost everybody or most families, whatever, will, like, punish a kid if they do something bad. But Shigaraki's not doing anything bad. That's the isolating incident here, is the father is projecting this trauma onto this kid simply because he's expressing his opinion, because he's just talking about something he wants to be or something he likes, which creating this, you know, this split in his mind of like, okay, if my father is telling me, beating me because I'm telling him I want to be something, that means he must hate me, right? And, like, that's the problem here. And what, again, you know, Nana, which is the name of All Might's teacher, you know, that guy's mom, I do agree. She definitely shares fault in, you know, this situation for instilling, you know, those hangups in, I believe his name is Kotaro, the Shigaraki's dad.
Yeah.
But you know, but again, you know, we get into this thing of, like, saying that your mom walked out on you, not an excuse to beat your kids. Like, that's just not, it doesn't.
Oh no, absolutely. And I want to make it abundantly clear that, like, there is no defense, you know, for the father. You know, I mean, in my mind, that's justified for the, like, physical abuse on that level, you know, even though he went through some shit himself and clearly never figured it out. But I guess that's what I'm saying, is that if I'm gonna hold the father to that standard, again, the one thing that makes Shigaraki, you know, Shigaraki is still a child when it's happening, which is shitty, but, you know, so, like, it makes it, you know, there's a little more sympathy there. But I guess my point is that, like, I'm holding Shigaraki to the same standard that I'm holding his father, in the sense that it's like, you had a really rough beat and this sucks because this is, like, a generational thing that you don't even realize. But, like, you are now still here trying to destroy everyone on planet Earth for the fuck of it. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, you had a really shitty thing, but like, let's not forget that you said you felt good after you killed not only him but everyone. You know what I mean, in your family. So like, I don't cut him
when they go through that trauma will then be put into the world, right? And they'll have a bunch of people from here to Timbuktu, you know, interjecting their own opinions and thoughts, and you start to like cultivate this whole grand consensus of like how the world works and what people think of X, Y, or Z behavior. After that traumatic incident, Shigaraki went directly to All For One, who did nothing but manipulate and vex that feeling in him, and tell him that all those negative feelings, and tell him that all of those emotional, you know, traumatic incidents, like, to hold on to those and let those fester in you, and the innate feelings that those produce, like, are good. Yeah. So it's like, of course Shigaraki is going to turn out as the kind of person who wants to destroy the world. He had an abusive childhood and then had All For One as a
no, that's
teacher,
true. No, you're right. Yeah, I mean, you're right in that scenario. I guess I just, in this, when he describes it as a child, he that's where he describes it as an itch that he scratched, you know what I mean, where he like felt a surge of pleasure once he did that. And I guess that, you know, being that that's before he meets All For One, I'm like, okay, there is malice, you know what I mean, within there. And again, you're younger, but you know what I mean. I guess my point is that like he obviously internalized it. It's a whole generational thing. I guess I'm just I'm a little more, and again, I didn't read the manga, so you highlighting the fact in the manga that they make clear that the physical abuse is consistent definitely changes my perspective slightly, because in the anime in this episode, they really seem to make it a point when he finally hits him that like that was a first time thing, and that he's torn up about it, and that the mom is like, that's not happening, which is, to be fair, actually from what you described in the manga, like a total flip on what it is. So I think it's like two different arguments depending on where you get the source.
Is that like the father is scared of his son in that moment because he, you know, like, oh, he's turned into this monster that I was afraid he would turn into.
Yeah.
But then the caveat is like, you know, he kind of turned like this happened partially because of you.
Sure.
But it's like, you know, but yeah, the anime does kind of like, it glosses over it in the way they contextualize it, makes kind of not rewrites, but it alters the perception of like what.
Yeah, I would say it almost does, you know, because when you describe it like that from the manga, I'm like, oh, that is a total flip, right, in the father's personality in a sense, because he goes from, in the manga, like consistently beating his kid for that in plain daylight, to hitting him once and being like, oh, I really messed up there, because I slapped him the one time, not the, you know what I mean, but like that's very, you know, it's very relevant, you know what I mean. So I think that's interesting, like, you know, from a manga perspective.
Anime, they're like, you know, they're like kind of iffy about showing or like making statements like that, because it's all like, you know,
yeah, I guess they got to be like a little more PG with it, which it's like, it's like tougher watching it when you're older. You know what I mean? That's why there's like the manga elitists out there, because you're like, well, it didn't actually go as deep as it should have went. You know what I mean? But when you're younger, it's like, you can't go too dark, because then the kids are like, A, not going to understand what's going on, and B, like, you're going to mess them up. So I guess that does make a lot of sense. I guess just like, you know, manga aside, you know, personally, and you can let us know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on this, because, you know, we're just playing devil's advocate and, you know, debating it back and forth, but it, you know, it's all love. It's all fun. I guess I have a little more, sympathy for the rest of the family, not including the father. And like, I guess I'm just a little harder on Shigaraki in that moment, although it's incredibly sad, because I guess I just felt with the mom, especially, it was like, I don't know what she could have done, I guess, is the issue, because it's like, well, you didn't do enough. And it's like, well, what can she do, right? And it's like, I think her threatening to leave him is one of the best things she can do, because then she has to do that and then fight for custody of the child, or take the child, you know what I mean? Like, separating the child from the father. And I feel like that's really the only way to do it, besides killing him. You know what I mean? Which obviously isn't an option. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's hard, you know, it's a hard scenario.
Or like, you know what I mean? Like, you could go to like I don't know how many services and you know, organizations like carry over from the real world to this universe, but if there's some kind of child protective services or something, like, there are ways that you can like go about directly separating the abuser from the abused,
Yeah.
and then worry about the whole like family dynamic and stuff later. But
Yeah, and that's
I
the
guess
tough about the anime because it's like, you know, through the anime perspective, that was like the first time. So I'm, you know, when you were saying that initially, when I didn't realize about the manga, I'm like, well, you know, she threatened him the first time. You know what I mean? With it, like, how many times does it take before it's like, oh, you should have done something, you know? But, you know, depending on how the manga depicts it, if it's like, you know, she witnessed it 500 times, you know what I'm saying, or some shit. I mean, you know, maybe we could have pulled the trigger on that a little sooner, you know, mama. But, you know, if it was like, you know, the first or whatever time and a couple times, and she's like, all right, that's it. You know what I mean? Like, we're doing this, then I guess to me, it's like, it's just hard for me to think of like any alternative course of action. You know what I mean? Like, at least the way that Shigaraki feels, where it's like, you should have just saved me. And it's like, I love you to death, you know, like, you're my child, and I, you know, I do love you, but like, you're not an adult, like, you don't understand, you know what I mean? Like, it's not that easy. I can't just like shoot your dad, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's steps, you know what I mean, to go through. So all I can really do right now is offer you my love, you know what I'm saying, and like try to ameliorate it and juggle it. So I feel like the mom was put, I guess I just felt for the mom, but I felt like she was just put in a very shitty situation. She was caught between a rock and a hard
definitely had
place,
like a, you
you
know,
know?
that's definitely not, you know, in a shitty situation to be in. Like, any abusive family dynamic is not a good one.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Especially for the parent who's not, you know, the one doing the abusing.
Yeah, abuser.
But you know, I guess it just sucks because it's like, you know, you know, it's tough because she'd have, you know, there's, I guess, not politics, but there's, you know, there's people like shit you got to go through, I guess, to do that. But it's like, Shigaraki doesn't really have that kind of time.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. And he's
literally
he's
like
5.
unraveling by the day.
Yeah,
And
like, he doesn't understand that.
realizing or killed people, that was it.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't have time to like mull things over, or you know, in his mind, again, quite frankly, he's like, your love isn't like, it's not doing any, you know, I'm still getting beat, like, that's not doing, you know, you're not doing anything.
Which is sad because, you know what I mean, like, I do think you know, again, like, I do think her love counts for something, and it's just sad that, you know, Shigaraki being, I think because he's so young, he again doesn't understand all the intricate moving parts to like how this works with the family dynamic and what his mom's capable of and not capable of, what his sister's capable of, or the grandparents, like, you know, it's a very hard situation.
Like, how many things like sort of stacked on top of each other to create just the definition of the worst case scenario. Like, his sister,
exactly.
Like, you know, lied about him finding the picture, and then he finds out about his court. It's like so many things just like built on top of each other at like way too quick a pace for him to be like, all right, I guess I'm killing people. Like, you know, it's like
100%.
And then again, not to overstate, but then All For One raises him, who's like, if you want to pick a worse father than his biological father, it's probably All For One, because he's just like, all those negative feelings, that's good, soak on that shit, get like breathe that shit in, like not.
Yeah, no, it's terrible. I think one of the saddest things about it, and about a lot of these scenarios, but especially Shigaraki's, is that there are steps that could have avoided, you know what I mean, this worst case scenario coming up. And it sucks because it's a lot of like different decisions made by different people that all culminate to this shitty scenario. And so it's like, it's not just like this one big thing, you know what I mean, that did it. And that's what makes it hard to pinpoint, because it's like, well, whose fault is it really? Is it his grandmother's fault for abandoning her son to be a hero? Is it the son's fault for, you know, never internalizing that? And it's like, is it the mother's fault for not doing something sooner? Is it Shigaraki's fault for resorting to killing him? You know, like, it's hard, you know, because it's like, if you really make the argument, there's a case for like every scenario. And that's what makes it interesting, is like, there's like, everyone's kind of at blame, but for different reasons. And it just sucks, because if there were like different decisions made down the road, or just like they had different people to talk to about it or be there for them, you know, I would wager that a lot of this situation could have been avoided, you know, and that's what makes it a very interesting dynamic.
I mean, like, it's even like what you were saying about like what your friend said. It's like, you know, at the end of the day, people are going to make whatever choices they make. You can't, you know, at least in a literal sense, you can't like, you know, you can't make people make decisions you want them to make.
Yeah.
But if you're going to be somebody like, you know, so for example, taking this dynamic here, Nana, you know, it was not a good decision, in my opinion. I agree too. But she made her decision. She decided that she was going to be a hero, and in order to live the life of a hero, she didn't want any ties to her family, right? Because that leaves, you know, that's the other thing that always gets me with like people like All Might versus literally any other hero in this world, because All Might doesn't have a family. So
Mm.
All Might can go around being the best hero and number one and doing all this stuff and whatever. There are no links to him. You can't like hurt him through hurting somebody else.
Yeah.
But all these other heroes do have those emotional ties already. So it's like it's a harder decision for any one of these people to be like, I want to be a hero, because if they become a known hero, that indirectly puts any of their family or loved ones in danger. So it's like, again, not to say her decision was nonsensical, but I ultimately, especially like you said, if she already had a family, I do think it was a very poor decision because of, the lasting consequences that would have on her kids or her kid. But for all intents and purposes, that was a decision she made, and it's not like she made it, necessarily like selfishly, like she was just like, I want to be a hero, like because it's popular. So it's like, if you then, let's take Kotaro, or I'm pretty sure that's his name.
Close enough.
Yeah. If you take Kotaro, if he really genuinely is dead set on raising like having a family and raising kids, you need to do everything in your power to be the best version of you. If that means getting yourself help, if that means like getting yourself into therapy or something and talking through your issues and figuring out why you feel the way you do about yourself and the world, then that's what you need to do, instead of, like you said, course correcting and being like, all right, I'm just going to be the opposite of what my mom. She was a hero. All she cared about was being a hero. So I'm going to be the opposite. I'm going to shun any conversation or any notion that being a hero is a good thing. I'm going to talk it up like being a hero is nothing but being a selfish, savage mom. No, that's personal stuff that you need to work out, because the best version of you, I do firmly believe, could have raised Shigaraki into a like healthy, upstanding boy. But the best version of you was not the version that had this kid and tried to raise him. So it's like, being the best version of yourself means clearing out that whole fucking closet, clearing out all those demons, all that shit that you carried, that, your parents put on you, or you carried out of your house, when you grew up or whatever, because none of that shit belongs in another, like, you know what I mean? None of that shit belongs in another child. That stuff happened before Shigaraki's time. It had nothing to do with him, and it shouldn't influence how he experiences the world.
Yeah, man. Well said. Well said. And shit, man. When, like I said, when My Hero hits, it hits, because any anime that we could have a 30-minute, 45-minute discussion on after an episode is probably a good anime, or at least a good episode, in my opinion. You know what I mean? There are a couple anime out there that I can do that with before I'm like, all right, I've checked out of this conversation. And so the fact, speaking on a personal note, that I've had a lot of fun with these discussions, covering some very serious topics here, speaks to the level of enjoyment that I get from watching the show when it hits. So
like with the anime, not to cut you off, but like with the anime thing of them like kind of censoring and like melding the story, that's why it's like kind of such a shame that this story has to be downplayed to kids so often, because it's a really engaging story, and it's a really, like, I say dark story, but dark story in the sense of its realism. Like the issues that the show touches on are very real, and they're things that happen, separating the superhero component from it. This is just a story about a society that, grooms people to be a certain way, to look a certain way. And I mean, fuck if that's not exactly what our society does to us. And you know what I mean? So it mirrors and reflects so many things that you can talk about in the real world and have, discussions like the one we've had. And I personally don't think there's anything wrong with like engaging in a conversation like that with kids. Now, obviously, like the level of like, dark or mature content, whatever you want to get into, like that's on you. That's a different story. But I just mean that, like, I don't think there's anything bad with like having conversations with kids, because I think while kids aren't, obviously they don't have as much experience as older people, they're not like stupid, you know what I mean? And I feel like this weird like taboo sheltering censoring thing does more harm than good, when it's like a kid watches this episode and they're like, oh, I didn't really get all that other stuff, you know what I mean? Like that stuff goes over their head, and then like let's say they come into it in real life and it's like they're not to say that you watch this episode and you're an expert on family dynamics, but my point is that like it's healthy to talk about this stuff. It's healthy to explore this stuff, and it's healthy to expose, to some degree, to like expose kids to it and like get them in on the conversation, get their opinions. What do they think? Because they're part of the society too. They live in the same world we do, and they're going to, if things go the way that it's supposed to, long after you are. So, it's like, it's just, I do agree that this story is very, deep and engaging when it hits and when it wants to be. And it does suck that a lot of the times I think it has to get like watered down to like the funny, colorful superhero kid show more often than I think it should.
Yeah, I agree with you 1,000% on your points with, you know, letting children be subject to more intellectual and, you know, like things like along those lines, for lack of a better term, butchered that. But yeah, more intellectual stuff, you know, and not underestimating their capacity to understand some of the stuff that you might have not given them the credit for, and to also maybe dig deeper into it if they really want to, because kids are smarter than you think. And like, you know, the older I get, the more I realize that I feel like a lot of ignorance is, you know, is brought on by laziness. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you can, you know, obviously a child doesn't have as much life experience, so, you know, it's a little tougher, but like just in general, just speaking human to human here, like if you really put in the time to try and understand something or learn it or whatever, some people's circumstances might be different from others, but if you have that opportunity to do that, like you can reach some pretty high heights, you know, like people are really incredible when they put their mind to something, you know? So it's like children are equally as capable of that if they, you know, if they have the time and they have the support and all that kind of thing to do it. So I don't think My Hero is going to make or break, but you know, they're in the business of making money here at the end of the day. And, you know, I guess they have to be careful because, you know, some parents will riot about it and some kids maybe don't want to look into it like that. Everybody's different. So they're maximizing their profits. So it is what it is. I won't get into all that, but regardless, I enjoyed this episode a lot if you couldn't tell already. But anyway, hopefully you guys did too. You enjoyed our reaction to this episode, the episode itself, our discussion about it afterwards, basically a podcast at this point. If you did, if you made it this far, I'm going to assume you're subscribed. If you're not, I would highly encourage you to do so if you enjoyed what you saw here today and listen to. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content on the channel. Hit us up in the comments down below. What did you think on any of the takes we had? There were a lot of them to go back and forth with here. It's all love. Just be civil with it. And we'd be happy to read a lot of those. Like I said, like and share with your friends as well. What do they think about the whole thing as well? Hit us up in the description down below. Click the link that says Linktree, and it'll bring you to all the ways that you can support us beyond just YouTube. Our second YouTube channel, our audio-only platforms for podcast discussions that we've had, our social media, everything from Twitter to TikTok, our Discord, which is totally free to join, so you could talk some more anime and just general life things and make some new friends. And lastly, our Patreon, if you want to support us while getting exclusive benefits. It's really a win-win, so we can continue to do what we do and you guys can get the best content possible delivered. A lot of benefits such as early access to our live reactions in an unfiltered, unedited style, so you don't have to go through the rigmarole on YouTube that, you know, we have to do in order to not get copyrighted. But anyway, that's all we got for today. Thank you so much for watching, folks, but until next time, we'll catch you on the flip. Peace.
Peace.
Ninjas are samurais, blaze of the kunais. Find me in the leaf of the cloud, screaming out Bankai. We just some ghouls though, who like seeing parts fly. They like what you saying, Goma got more through the storylines. I tested your neck from the start, my hunters gon' come for your heart. I promise you'll land in my boulevard, left them in one piece, no